everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on volume 2 of Heaven Official's Blessing, and we're going to be going over chapters 39 through 41 today. So I'm pretty excited. I'm very excited. I'm not excited that we're nearly caught up with the manhwa, but we'll just make do with what we can. I have been sent from Reiki on Patreon a link to chapter 79 of the manhwa because apparently there was a couple people in the Discord talking about that apparently in chapter 79 Star Ember reveals the name of a character that we've not met yet, or that we shouldn't know the name of that character yet. And so they went ahead and edited the chapter to where I would not see that name. And I was like, thank you so much. So I'm really excited about that. I'm very happy that that was edited. So when I get to that chapter and read it, I've got it in my Google Drive saved the file that has the name edited out. So thank you. But yeah, we're gonna be looking at chapters 39 to 41. This volume has already been a roller coaster because it starts out giving you a lot of exposition and it sets up expectations of how you think characters will be and what to expect of them. And already within the last set of chapters, we've had those expectations kind of turned on their head. So especially with Long, Chain Chu, as his name is supposed to be pronounced. Thank you. I'll get in the comments about that in a second. But as Chain Chu has pointed out, that we can't really judge a book by its cover. The characters, they're starting to reveal more and more about themselves. Typical MXTX fashion, right? Just giving us characters and then subverting our expectations. So I know I've had some people in the comments already being like, Romania's overthinking things. Let me overthink. That's all I can say. I'm going to overthink. That's just how it works. But don't deconfirm or confirm my theories. Don't spoil me. Just let me overthink. And so I feel like I say that a lot in the comments, and so I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, but I'm loving this volume right now, and I don't want it ruined. So, with that being said, I do have some comments before we start with these chapters. Eva Happy, thank you so much. I've been wondering how to say Long's name the last several chapters, and she was like, it's Long Chain Chu. You say it like Chain Chu in English. And I was like, oh, okay. So thank you. So Chain Chu is, I can remember that. That I can pronounce. So that is the way that we say his name. So thank you very much for that. Anna Naumova, along with Sarah Linda, both commented about how Junwoo was calling Shi Lian Shanli because that's the more like official godly title. It just feels so weird, right? It feels weird to call Shi Lian by his like actual deity name. It's so bizarre to me. I don't know how to feel about it, right? But thank you for letting me know about that. And it does just feel awkward, especially because Shi Lian's so chill and like doesn't put on airs like that at all. So, but I appreciate y'all saying that. Al Sora talked about how Ryuji, the yi sounds like Ji, so Ryuji. The first part is spelled with the same meaning as like evil. So it was like, So I wonder if that's like, again, I don't want hints or clues, but I'm wondering if that's tying to the fact that my theory is that San Long gave Ryuji to Shi Lian. So we'll see how that goes. Keon Fong talks about how Hua Chong loves Shi Lian, but only Shi Lian, which is very true. Yeah, Hua Chong doesn't like anybody else except Shi Lian, which would explain at the end of volume 1 why Hua Chong left Banyu outside. Like, I'll tolerate you because you're Shi Lian's kid, but don't like you, won't bring you inside. So I thought that was pretty funny. The MS Nadia talked about how food in China is tied with how we view standard greetings and emotions, and talked about how there's a phrase, ni qi li ma, that in Chinese, in Mandarin means have you eaten? And I was like, oh, I actually remember from Modao Zushi when we'd see like Lan Wangji come up and greet people, I would hear ni qi li ma, and I'd be like, okay, I don't understand. So but then how are you? Like, have you eaten or how are you? And I do remember saying chele, which means I have eaten, meaning I'm doing well. And I was like, oh, I've heard chele said like over and over again in Modao Zushi. So that makes sense. And then also there is Chele Jai Shidian. I butchered it so bad. But saying, I've already eaten, let's eat some more. So Shi Lian, in saying all of this, is trying to be polite to both gods and ghosts, and is coming from a desire to be polite and show goodwill. And I was like, I thought that was really cool. So I'm really glad that you pointed that out, because I remember hearing that phrase over and over again in the Untamed and in Modao Zushi and the Dongwon. I was like, huh. So I'm glad to know what that means. That's really, really cool. Sarah Linda talks about how Shi Lian addresses and prostrates himself before Junwoo because he's the Heavenly Emperor, which does make sense. I don't know. People in the Discord were like, oh, I love Junwoo. And I was like, saying like, I don't want to know too much about it yet. I will figure it out as we go. But again, it's kind of like Pei Ming. There's people that really like these characters, people that don't. It's still a little creepy to me that he like gently scolds Shilian as his problem child. I was like, it's still kind of just odd to me. Like, is he just being parental? I don't know. In my mind, I'm like, the only daddy that Shilian has is San Long. So I don't know. So there's that. But also Sarah Linda pointed out that when we talk about the retired heavenly officials that Shilian thinks could have sent out the signal, it could mean gods that have slowly been losing their followers or losing their status as heavenly officials. And so apparently, like, once you lose your power completely, you just become irrelevant, forgotten, overlooked, and eventually you fade out, become humans again, and die, it's kind of like a metaphor for a celebrity almost. Like, your celebrities, they rise, to popularity, and then they slowly either fade away or they are cut off and lose that popularity and just aren't stars anymore. It's kind of an interesting tie to that, I think. So I find that curious. I like it. But thank you for saying that. That helps to explain that situation a little bit more. Pei Chu talks about how Chain Chu is the crown prince of Yongin, but not the general that overtook Sean Lee. They are separate entities. And I was like, that explains a lot. In the Discord, they were saying that. They're like, hey, I just want to give you a heads up. I don't hope it's not a spoiler. And I was like, well, now that we've come to know, it's not really a spoiler if it's something that is stated directly in the text and my brain just overlooked it. But if it's something that we have not found out yet, then I do consider that a spoiler. But the fact that it had literally been spelled out, my brain just overlooked it. That makes sense. But yeah, so that makes much more sense that Chain Chu is not the one that overtook Shilian's home. He's just the crown prince. Makes much more sense with his character. I'm glad y'all said that. But also, Shilian is unusually silent, even in his thoughts around Junwoo, which I find interesting. I'm going to file it away, but that is interesting that he's just very reverent. Now, to be fair, I will say this. I'll be a little bit devil's advocate on Junwoo's behalf. That we see up in the heavenly realm that most of the deities are very cruel to Shilian, or they gossip around him, or they don't give him respect. Junwoo does seem to respect Shilian, and he does treat him with consideration. So I do like that. I do like that about his character so far, that he is giving him respect when the other heavenly officials seemingly do not. So I will give him that so far. But I'm wary. I'm very wary, right? SQQLBH314 talked about how Long being the crown prince of Yongin, it still makes the situation between him and Shilian a bit awkward because it is like the crown prince of a kingdom that overtook Shilian's kingdom. So it is still a little bit awkward there. And then it makes it even more awkward when we think back to Kamo asking Shilian like, oh, are you a Yongin? And Shilian's like, I guess technically, right? So that does make it really awkward. So I'm glad you pointed that out. But also the Windmaster's clothing in the manhwa, they're like the white with the green accents, which kind of ties to like leaves flowing in a breeze, which makes sense. But in the Donghua, very thematically, the Windmaster's robes are the colors of the trans flag. And I was like, oh. So I guess a lot of people, they were talking about how some people predicted the gender swap early on because of those colors. And I was like, oh, I could see that. I hadn't put two together. I thought it was just kind of like the colors, because I know in some Asian cultures, I know I had a friend that was Korean that wore a lot of pink as a baby because pink is not associated with femininity in Korea. So I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't think much about it, but I think the color scheme choice is very interesting. So yeah. But then finally, Anime Annie talks about how the only comment that they'll say about Junwoo is that they didn't like him dissing the Puqi shrine. And I was like, yes, that was the one thing. That was like, he was dissing Shilian's little shrine that he spent all that time and effort into and said it was a little shack. I was like, hey, Shilian spent a lot of time putting that together. Him and San Long spent a lot of time cleaning it up. And I like the idea that Shilian prefers something more cozy and kind of like intimate than a giant, cold, and empty palace. Like, I like that shows the change of Shilian from being the crown prince to being how he is. And Huckleberry's decided to join me. Yes. So yeah. But I liked that a lot, that Shilian likes the more cozy, homely aspect. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Mode Azushi, where Wushin like debates like at the end of the day going off into like some little cottage to retire with Long Wonji. I like that. So, but yeah, those are my comments that I have for the story so far. I will be honest, I actually had a procedure this morning on my back, and so I've taken some pain medicine, and I'm fine. But it's very, very sore, and so I was told not to move around too much, and I was like, well, I don't want to just sit around and do nothing today. So I thought I will read Heaven Official's Blessing. That's what I'll do. So that's where we're at. But so if I just like grimace or something, it's nothing to worry about. But yeah, so those are my comments. So I am ready to start these chapters, chapter 39 to 41. It starts in the English text on page 95. So we're not very far into the story, y'all. I'm pretty excited. I hope you all are too. But let's not waste any more time, shall we? We're going to start chapters 39 through 41 of Heaven Official's Blessing, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. At the Paradise Manor, questions of Shanla. Oh, so are we gonna actually get some backstory on Chain Shoes, like the overthrowing of Shilian's kingdom? Maybe, but we gotta take care of the bandage boy first, don't we? Okay. I like this that Shilian like slowly breaks into a run when he starts to piece together that it could be the boy in the bandages, and then it makes sense now why Ling Wen couldn't find him, because he had escaped from the mortal realm into the ghost territory, and there's no Wi-Fi here, so the heavenly realm can't research or investigate in this area unless they physically went there. That makes sense. I like that Chain Shoe is like, he's like, what are you doing? And the Windmaster's like, how about didn't we talk about this, that you're not going to just jump in? And he's like, it'll be the last time. He is literally Buzz Lightyear. We talked about in this last reaction, he is literally just playing the hero, but I love it. I love it. What a bro. I'm never going out with you again. This is the last time we hang out together. Oh, that's great. And they can only fight with their fists and feet, because they don't want to use any spiritual powers. Oh no, oh my gosh. And of course Shilian lets them duke it out as he goes to the boy. Oh, they're soaked in blood. Oh. I like the Shilian's like, guys, I gotta go track down this bandage kid. I may be gone for 3 days. See y'all then. Like, did he pack a weekend bag or anything? Like Shilian's like, it'll probably take me 3 days. Just give me that. Oh, send a search party if you don't see me by then. Huh. Oh no, and Shilian's knocking over all these stalls being like, I'm sorry. And they're like, sorry to shit, catch him. Oh no, Shilian. And it's just getting thicker and thicker. Oh no. This little pale face. Oh. Ooh, that's like a creepy tie to like the no face. Oh, I didn't mean any harm. Oh no. Oh. As if someone of importance had arrived. Oh. I wore a mask. It was a funny mask with a face contorted as if smiling woefully. A waning moon officer. Oh. Greetings, cultivator! Oh, is it one of Song Long's men? Oh, the officer. The Lord wants to see him. It's never seen guests. Ooh, it's his sanctuary. Oh my gosh. He's the one that won against the Lord today. No, the one the Lord educated. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, that was a Deus Ex Machina if there ever was one. Oh, the officer has a cursed shackle too. Ooh, okay. I keep wanting to call him like Black Moon Officer, but it's Waning Moon. Okay. A lake with will-o-wisps floating across the water, playing and chasing each other. A splendid gold pavilion. However, the distinguished buildings of the heavens put emphasis on prominence and prestige, whereas the buildings in the ghost city were glamorous in their bewitchment and frivolity. Oh. Emitting an evil aura. Oh, interesting. So there are other people here. It's not just him by himself. Okay. He moves his head to not get engulfed with the scent. Oh, I love it. Shilian's like, no, I don't need all that. Interesting. There's just ladies dancing around. It has a very Modazushi Wushin and the ghostly lady vibes. Huh. Spinning seductively like bouquets of roses covered in thorns, blossoming in the midst of night. Ooh. However, when Shilian was observing the main hall, his eyes went straight through those women. The first thing he saw was Hua Chong seated at the very back of the main hall. Of course! Shilian's like, I ain't interested in these ladies. Where's Hua Chong? There he is. Oh. It could lounge a dozen people, but there was only one man sitting. He needs lots of room. There was only one man sitting upon it. There were a number of gorgeous ghost women dancing before him, but he didn't spare them any looks, only lazily keeping an eye on what was before him. Oh. It was a small golden palace, but from afar it looked like a heavenly palace. But on closer inspection, the little palace was built from thin sheets of gold foil stacked upon one another. Oh, what's this? Oh, gold foil palace. Shilian had played this game when he was a child. It was a game that was no different than village kids stacking rocks to build houses. Yet because he disliked separation by nature when he was younger, it didn't matter what it was as long as the objects were placed together, Shilian would refuse to separate them. After making a palace, he'd forbid anyone to touch it, wishing if only he could glue the fragile sheets together so that it'd never collapse. When he was even younger, if he saw his golden palace fall apart, he'd be depressed to the point of refusing food or sleep, until the king and queen coaxed him from his shell. The golden palace before him now was grand, layered in hundreds of foil sheets, fragile like an egg, as if a gentle breeze could blow it down. Shilian prayed mentally, don't collapse, don't collapse. Ooh, okay. Some insight here, huh? After a moment, however, Hua Chong gazed at his work and flashed a smile. He raised a finger and flicked the top of the golden palace. The foils fluttered and collapsed into a heap. Gold foils were strewn across the ground. The gold palace was destroyed. Having knocked it down, Hua Chong appeared amused by his handiwork, like a child who'd pushed over a tower of building blocks. He mindlessly threw away a gold foil sheet that was still in his hand and jumped off the divan. The dancing women immediately stopped in their steps and backed down to the sides, silencing their songs. Stepping on the gold foil sheets, Hua Chong walked towards the entrance. Oh, earlier it was you who pretended not to recognize me. Lan Chanchu was there, so if I didn't put on an act, I'd be giving you trouble. That was some sloppy act! Oh! So you're here especially to visit me this entire time? If Shilian had to be honest with himself, he knew Hua Chong was here. Had he known, he would have asked for leave so he could pay a visit. But that wasn't the case. I'm happy either way. Oh, and they all stopped at once, bowing their heads low, and filed out of the hall, leaving just the two of them. Oh, no. Come have a seat. So this is your real appearance. Oh, we haven't heard him describe him. Oh, okay. His shoulders stiffen, so it's not really his real appearance, right? I did say the last time we met I'd greet you with my real appearance. He patted his shoulder. Not bad. It wasn't teasing, not consoling, and very simply said, Oh, yeah. It's for you. What is it? It's nothing important. Just keep it for fun. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, right. Oh, then thank you, San Long. Seeing Shilian put the ring necklace back around his neck, Hua Chong's eyes shimmered brightly. Oh, I thought it was something like a brothel, the Paradise Manor, or a red light district, but this looks more like an entertainment hall. He raised his brows. What are you saying? I never go to the red light district. Really? Of course. And they sat down next to each other. This is nothing but a place I renovate here and there. A residence of sorts. I come here and chill when I'm free. If I'm busy, then I leave it be. So it's your home. Residence, not a home. Is there a difference? Of course. A home has family. A place where someone lives alone is not a home. Oh. By that definition, it had been 800 years since he'd had a home. He wonders if they were perhaps alike. Oh. If it's home, then even a small place like Poochie's Shrine would be better than my Paradise Manor by 1,000,000-fold. Oh, yeah! I didn't realize you're this sentimental. But to make comparisons to my shrine, you're really pulling my leg here. It's nothing to be embarrassed about, truth be told. Your shrine is small, but so much more comfortable in my manor. It's more like a home. I want them to end up together there. I want them to end up at that little shrine together. Then if you like in the future, come over whenever you want. The doors are always open for you. Since you say so, I'll gladly take up your offer. Don't think me annoying in the future. There's no way! Oh. By the way, I want to ask you a favor, but don't know if you have the time. What is it? It's my territory. Just ask and I'll deliver. Before, when I was dealing with the case at Mount Eugen, I ran into this boy who might have originated from my kingdom. Okay. There's no need to worry. Just wait. Oh, thank you. But you left Long Chainshu just like that? Yeah, what other nonsense would come out of his mouth? Oh no, yeah. His Highness caused you trouble earlier at the Gambler's Den. Sorry about that. Oh, that slightly condescending smirk appeared. What are you saying? That didn't count as trouble in the slightest bit. Well, the things he broke. Oh, for Gege's sake, I'll clear his account. Oh! As long as he doesn't show his face in front of me. You don't care that there are heavenly officials frolicking in your territory? Is he that fearless? Of course, you wouldn't know about this. But all three realms proclaim the Ghost City a hell of corruption, a demonic chaos, but in reality, everyone wants to come to carouse. So many of the heavenly officials pretend not to care and speak ill, but behind everyone's back, they come here in disguise and conduct unspeakable business. I've seen so much. Oh, then I can wipe them out. Ooh, interesting. That's lack of experience. To choose between letting yourself live longer for 10 years and cutting your enemy's life short by 10 years. To pick the latter, that's the basis of human hatred. That an idiot like him could ascend, the heavens are truly blind. Shilian rubbed his forehead, feeling a little guilty. You can't say it like that. After all, someone like me has ascended thrice. Oh, don't say that, Shilian. Come on. We're doing real good up until now. Won't it blow up in your face one day? Yeah, interesting. Okay. Yeah, he's like a place that would allow the betting of sons and daughters in people's lives and granting wishes for others to drop dead was dreadfully sinful. Never mind a little brawl. One day, if the bets got out of hand, the heavens wouldn't be able to sit back and keep their eyes shut. Hua-Chang gave him a look. Did you ever ask why Chainshu why he had to rush into the mess? I bet he must have told you that if he didn't, no one else would. Oh, you're right. That's exactly what he said. Then I'm complete opposite. If I don't control a place like this, then someone else would take control of it. I'd rather that person be me. I understand. It seemed that although Hua-Chang was someone sentimental, he also cared for control and power more than Shilian realized. Nonetheless, thank you for your concern. Oh, they already found him? That was quick? What? Holy shit. Oh my god. Okay. What? Wow. That was really fast. And gently put him on the ground. Oh, he wanted to see if there really was a cursed shackle. Okay. Oh, and they've been bent down to instantly soothe them. Oh, Shilian. Oh, so Hua-Chang's just gonna let him just do whatever and be like, you just take, he's your bandage boy, you do what you want. If you want to give him some food, go ahead. Oh. Like he'd been starved and was desperately hungry. Even when Shilian was at his worst, like a wild dog, he'd never shoved food into himself like this. He might not have spoken in many years and has forgotten how. Ooh, Hua Chong suggesting that. Oh, we can do this slowly. Your face is wounded. Let me take a look. Oh, yeah. Ready to remove the silly bandages. Hua Chong intercepted. Let me do it. Oh, he didn't want him to do it. He shook his head and moved his hands slowly, unraveling the bandages. The terrifying little faces were gone. Only large blotches of ripe red scars. Oh. There were burns covering the face, but not as much blood. Oh, he must have used a knife to cut away the human faces from his own and left all those scars. His hands trembled softly as he rubbed the mess, and when Hua Chong, let me. Oh no, he says, no, let me do this myself. Oh. 800 years ago, many who contracted the disease without any other way chose this route of self-mutilation. It was hell on earth. Some would miss their target and cut where they shouldn't and died from blood loss. Although successful in removing the small human faces, never healed from those wounds. He should have been a handsome young man, but now bore such a terrifying appearance. Are you from Shanley? Then where are you from exactly? Yong'an. Oh, it only ever erupted within the kingdom of Shanley, so yet this boy was from Yong'an. He felt his sight go dark and he blurted out, have you ever met the White Cloth Calamity? The White Cloth Calamity, the origin of plagues, the symbol of misfortune. He was the nightmare of previous generations of gods before the Crimson Rainsop Flower was born. If it wasn't for Junwu, who personally exterminated him, this nightmare would have probably continued even today. This Supreme always wore snow-white funeral garb, his expansive sleeves fluttering, and a cry-smiling mask on his face. The mask was called this because half of it was smiling, the other half was crying, his half joyous, half sad. If he should be seen anywhere, it would mean that place would soon be doomed to ruin, and the world would fall into chaos. Oh! In the last battle, Shilian was standing on top of the highest tower of the Palace of Shanley, his face covered in grime and tears, lost and bemused as he gazed below to his kingdom. With his blurry vision, there stood a white silhouette amongst the field of corpses, just outside the fortress walls, his giant white sleeves fluttering, obvious and distinct. Shilian dropped his head to look down at him, and that white apparition also raised his head to look at Shilian and waved at him directly. The cry-smiling mask was the nightmare Shilian couldn't chase away, even after hundreds of years. Oh, ooh. Huh, that is terrifying. Oh. Chapter 41. These chapters are going by so fast. No! Oh, he grabbed onto the boy onto his shoulders and unconsciously gripped him too tight. It wasn't until he shouted that Shilian came to. Oh no, he's like, I'm sorry. Hua Chong spoke in a low voice. You're tired, go rest. Oh, like a door just appears. And two dainty girls enter to take the boy away. Oh. If you have any questions for him, I have my ways of prying open his lips. Oh, no. He's like, oh no, he's just prying open his lips sound rather horrifying. And Shilian hurriedly replied, no, that's all right. If you couldn't say anything, let it go. We'll take this slow. What are your plans? I want to keep him by my side and bring him along with me. He's a ghost, not a human. Oh, why don't you leave him here? I have no trouble feeding another mouth. Oh. Thank you, but I want to bring him along. Not just for the purpose of raising him. What? Shilian's gonna collect all the little orphan ghosts. He's got Banyu, now he's gonna have this boy. Shilian's gonna have all the little orphan ghosts. It's like Oliver and Company. He's just gonna be like Fagin and just like taking all the ghost kids. Oh no. The most important thing for the boy was guidance more than protection. to help him organize his mind and speech so he could look and behave normally. The ghost city was a bustling place, chaotic and wild, not ideal for counseling. Other than himself, Shilian couldn't think of anyone else who would have the patience to undertake this task. Yeah, we've established Song Long is not patient. He would be able to protect him, but wouldn't be able to really guide him. That's a good point. I like that. When you're here, if you need anything, just let me know. You're free to go wherever you want. He noticed the scimitar on Hua Chang's waist had changed. He looked down and his curiosity was piqued. It turns out on the hilt of that scimitar there was a large silver eye crafted upon it. The pattern of the eye was formed by a few rough silver strokes. Although simple, it looked mythical, as if alive. He didn't see it at first because the eye was closed into a thin line, but just then the eye floated open and revealed a crimson gem-like eyeball. Within the socket, it twirled once. Oh, he's like, I have to leave for a bit. I'll be right back. Oh, is it an alarm? Could it be the Lord Windmaster and Chainshu showed their true selves here in the Ghost City? I'll come with you. Oh. It's not His Highness Tai Hua. There's no need for you to go. Okay. I like that Shilian is told to stay there, but he's so worried about the bandage boy and him being scared of strangers and emotionally unstable, he couldn't sit still and he rose, determined to go see him. Oh, and there's a small garden. Oh. A black shadow flushed by. The silhouette of a waning moon officer. Oh. Interesting. Clung to the wall and looked around him. Why all the sneaking around? Oh, that the officer possessed malintent. Could it be different because the officer that brought the boy in didn't have the cuff? And turned his head and where he clung, it wrapped himself around the wooden beam and pulled Shilian up to the ceiling where he clung to the beam. Oh, so he didn't see him. Okay. He didn't see him. He turned around at the edge when he got to the door and he didn't see him because he's up in the rafters. Okay. Good. Rather resembled a gecko. Oh, that's funny. Oh my gosh. In front of the door, there was a statue of a woman, wily and beautiful. But from Shilian's angle, he only saw a circular head and a shallow, rounded jade plate in her hands. Instead, he turned to the woman's statue and raised a hand, tossing something in the jade plate. It sounded crisp. Dice? It was a sound he'd heard too many times earlier, and not one he'd forget for a long time. It was the sound of dice hitting the bottom of a gambling cup. When the masked youth removed his hand, it was indeed 2 dice in the jaded place, but revealing 6 red dots. After tossing dice, the masked youth removed them from the plate and put them away before opening a door. The door wasn't even locked. When entering through the doors and closed from behind them, Shilian didn't hear any sounds of locks activating either. After waiting a moment, he lowered himself to the ground quietly as a piece of paper and crossed his arms to examine the set of doors. Interesting! Okay, so the building is locked, but not with physical locks, with magical locks. And to open it, you need a key or a pass. There's no key or password. The dice must roll 2 6s in order to see the real destination behind the doors. So it gives you like a fake out, but you don't see what's really there. But for Shilian to throw out 2 6s right then and there, that was something that would never happen in this world. Oh no. After walking away, he stopped abruptly. From the other end of the path came a tall, red-clad figure. Hua Chang. Gege, I've been looking for you with his arms crossed! It was out of its scabbard. Oh, a picture of arrogance. And the eye was closed. I was going to see that child, but your house is too big and I got lost. I mean, he didn't lie. Oh, he was going to tell Hua Chang about the van that he saw. But when the words came to his lips, they turned around and he swallowed them. He hadn't forgotten the goal of the visit to the Ghost City was to investigate the missing heavenly official. Any signs of fishiness couldn't be ignored. Who knows, perhaps that missing official was imprisoned in this room. Thus he decided not to ring the alarm and see if he could go through those doors first. If Hua Chang had nothing to do with it, then Shilian would report his suspicious subordinate at once. But if Hua Chang was involved... Shilian was deep in thought, but Hua Chang took no notice and spoke as he led Shilian back to the main hall. If you wanted to see that boy, I could have someone bring him to you. You only need to wait. It was probably because he was hiding something. But he couldn't help but become more docile. You finished your business that fast? He snorted, his lips curling in disdain. It's finished. It was just another band of useless trash embarrassing themselves after all. Oh. Wasn't she wrong? Ooh! Ooh! That's right. Didn't I tell you? Many have their eyes on this place of mine. Qirong has wanted the ghost city for himself for years now, but the most he could do was want and burn with envy. So every often he'll send some equally useless underlings to stir up trouble. Nothing worth mentioning. Don't mind it. Actually, I have a place I want to show Gege. But I don't know if Gege would grant me the pleasure. Of course. The doors of the hall seem to be made of steel with violent beasts carved into them. Horrible and terrifying. The moment Huachang approached, the beast parted ways and opened the doors. A blast of killing intent blew at Shi Lian before he even set foot into the hall, and he tensed, the veins popping on his hands, prepared to face anything. However, after seeing clearly what was inside the hall, he blinked, and his defenses melted away in an instant, and his legs moved on their own, bringing him to the hall. There were all manners of weapons that hung on the walls. Scimitars, swords, spears, shields, whips, axes. It was an armory. Oh, anyone, as long as they were a man, when situated in this armory such as this, surrounded by all kinds of weaponry, would feel as if they were in heaven, and their blood would boil with excitement. Shi Lian was no exception. His eyes were wide and his face lit. The last time he'd shown this much of excitement was in Jun Wu's armory. Oh. His heart was already battering in his chest, and his speech stammered, "May I touch?" And he says, "As you like." Oh, his hands flew instantly to the many treasures that hung on the wall, caressing them as if drunken. All of these are masterpieces. The sword is splendid. It must be a sight to behold on the battlefield. This one too, wait, and that saber. Huachang was leaning on the wall near the door, watching his face go red with thrill and obsession. Gege, what do you think? What do I think what? Do you like it? I do. Do you really like it? I really do. As he unsheathed the shimmering verdant blade of at least 4 feet, marveling, are any of them good enough for you? Oh, they're good. They're all good. Originally, I was thinking Gege didn't have any useful weapons on hand. So if there's anything here good enough, you can just pick something for yourself. And since you like them all, I'll give them all to you. Oh, no, there's no need, he said hurriedly. I have no use for weapons anyway. Really? But it's obvious Gege really likes swords. Liking doesn't mean I have to own it. I haven't used one in years. Just looking makes me happy. Besides, I have nowhere to put them if you give them all to me. Well, that's easy to solve. I'll give you this entire armory. There's no way I can take away a room this big. There's no need. No need to take it away. I'll give you the property too. Just come visit when you're free. No, it's okay. An army requires constant maintenance. I'd hate to see the weapons suffer. And said nostalgically, once upon a time, I owned an armory like this too, but it was burnt down. All these weapons are precious devices to be desired. You have to cherish them so long. Well, that's easy too. If I'm free, I can help Gege maintain the armory. Huh. Well, I certainly don't have the guts to ask my lord, the Ghost King, to do chores for me. Oh. And then he remembered Jun Wu's warning. He contemplated, but decided to ask in the end. Of course he did. All these weapons don't come even close to your scimitar Yiming, right? Oh, has Gege heard of my scimitar too? Only some hearsay. I bet it's not nice hearsay. Did someone tell you that it was forged by an evil, bloody ritual that I sacrificed live humans? Yes! Well, not too horrible. Everyone has their own bad rumors, but not everyone would believe them. I don't know if I might have the honor of seeing the legendary scimitar. You've already seen it. Ooh. This is Yiming. It twirled in Shi Lian's direction. But he thought that the carved silver eyelids started squinting in a crescent shape. Oh, what? No! What? You're gonna end it there? How dare you? How dare you? even fair. That's not even fair. Nope. Not at all. Oh my gosh, y'all. Yeah, okay. Well, these chapters went by way too fast. How dare they? How dare they? So, how dare they? I've got to take some more notes, especially on this last part here, and then go check out the manhwa. And then, yeah, we will come back and talk about this. These chapters went by really, really quickly. I mean, really fast. I felt like they took no time at all to read, and it was just one thing after the other, and now we're still not very far into this book. But chapters 39 through 41, what a horrible place to put a stop at, right? Right, but there's a lot going on in these chapters, and the manhwa, I'm officially caught up with the manhwa. It's chapter 77 through 80, right? 81 has not been translated into English yet. I think someone in the Discord said they were up to chapter 81, but it's not been translated to English that I can read yet. So we'll pick up with that next week and do there. So I'm officially pretty much caught up with the manhwa, which is okay. The manhwa kind of does something weird at the end in chapter 80, and I'll talk about it. I don't think it's a spoiler because nobody really commented on it being a spoiler. Maybe it's just something rearranged, and maybe I'll touch base on it in the next set of chapters. I, again, don't want to be spoiled. Like, I read chapter 80 thinking that it would go someplace, and then it didn't. And the manhwa conveniently leaves out something unless that was a spoiler that Reiki exited out of the manhwa, which very much could have been. So I'll just leave it at that. But there's a lot going on. We sadly didn't get a picture with this set of chapters. I was very sad. I was like, no picture for this one, but that's okay. But yeah, we need to talk about this because there's a lot. There's a lot going on. So we have the Bandage Boy. Let's talk about the Bandage Boy. Now, the manhwa does give a name to the Bandage Boy, and Reiki didn't edit that out. So I'm assuming it's not a spoiler. It's just going to come up later, and that's fine. But Reiki, it wasn't the spoiler that Reiki edited out. So I was like, okay, then I guess it's fine. But the novel does not give him a name. In the manhwa, Shilian gives him kind of like a little nickname, and that's what we go with. But so I'm assuming that'll come up later. Maybe it'll come up with the next set of chapters. So I'm not going to raise my arm too much. Like I said, I had something done on my back, so I can't really raise my arm too much. But we'll just do this. So the Bandage Boy, we'll go with this. The Bandage Boy, in the manhwa, Shilian, he says the name Ying, which is what Zhao Ying was, the girl that died during the Mount Yujin arc that was killed by Zhangji. So he has the name Ying, and then he says he's from Yongin, which Shilian in the manhwa says that the surname for a lot of that is Long, kind of like Long Chainshu. So he gives him the name Long Ying, kind of like Ayao, in Modazushi, kind of like that. So we're just going to call him Ying Long, or just Long Ying, which is kind of funny because then we have San Long, right? So it's like their child. We have Ban Yu and we have Ling Yang. So yeah, we're going to just keep it like that. Or yeah, no, if I can write right. Ying Long, we'll just keep that. So he's not officially been given that title in the novel, but I'm assuming it's going to come back out in the next couple chapters, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. That it's not really a spoilery name either, because it's literally the surname of Yongin and then Ying for Zhao Ying. So that's fine. I'm okay with that. But anyway, so he had escaped to the ghost realm, and so we determined that that's why he was hard to find, was that he had hid in the ghost realm. But here's the thing. He'd been able to do that because he is a ghost. Hua Cheng confirms, he's like, this kid ain't alive. He is officially a ghost. And so, which we'd kind of suspected that to begin with. But it makes sense why Ling Wen couldn't track him down, because there is no heavenly realm signal in the ghost realm, so she couldn't have found him even if she had wanted to. I really love in this section how they describe the moment that Shilian sees him, he just takes off running. Like forgets the Windmaster, forgets Chainshu, just takes off running after him. And goes from, and just keeps going. And says, and what have I got in here? And just keeps going to try to catch up to him. And I like in the novel that Chainshu doesn't really know what's going on, but he's like, I'll help. He's like, I'll jump in the fray. And Windmaster's like, didn't we talk about this? Didn't we just establish that you should not be impulsive and run in blindly? Didn't we say that's a bad thing? And I love that Chang-Chu's like, oh, come on, just one more time. And the Windmaster's like, fine, I'm never traveling with you again. I love it. I love that the Windmaster's like, I'm over it. I'm done. You're not allowed on any more vacations with us, but fine, go in there. And so Chang-Chu actually comes and helps Xi Lian, which I thought was really, really fun. I liked that a lot, that he helped save the bandage boy. I was like, good on you, Chang-Chu. Way to go, right? But the moment that Xi Lian is trying to be like as soothing and calm as possible, because Xi Lian knows that he messed up before. He was like, I reacted too much and it scared him. So he tries to be like as gentle, like offering food to a baby deer, right? And the bandage boy, Ying, we'll just call him Ying, he just freaks out and is like, nope, and takes off running because, you know, now that we know that he's a ghost and that he's been targeted by a lot of other people, it makes sense why he would be terrified, right? Especially with Xi Lian. And so Xi Lian like takes off to run, and the most convenient, it's not a Deus Ex Machina, but it is like the most convenient out that I think MXTX has ever written, ever. Where Xi Lian was like, he's like, don't worry, I'm gonna go after the bandage boy. I'll be gone all weekend. But don't worry, I'll come back in 3 days. So Xi Lian, we're gonna put him right here. He says that he's gonna go after, and I'm gonna put the bandage boy, and for 3 days. How convenient. It's just convenient that he takes a weekend trip to the Paradise Manor and he's like, I'll be gone for 3 days. Don't worry about me. If you didn't know any better, you would suspect that Xi Lian was going to go on a little rendezvous with Hua Chong and have like a little weekend getaway, which is kind of what happens, but it's not, it's only been like less than a day there so far. And I don't know if I'd call it a getaway necessarily. They haven't done anything romantic too much. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But yeah. So he takes off after him saying he'll be back in 3 days. Don't worry about me. And I love the visual that the novel gives. The manhwa doesn't do it justice. I will say that. The manhwa does not do. These chapters especially, Star Ember picks and chooses what she draws. And I'm assuming either, unless the spoiler's been cut out and I didn't see it, there's a lot cut out from this point, and there's like an extra added in thing, which we'll talk about at the end. But Star Ember does not give that chasing justice. I love the idea that as the ghost boy gets further away and slips into the shadows, that Xi Lian is like running as fast as he can, and everything starts to get more packed, more condensed, and he's like trying to like sift through the people, and he ends up knocking over all of these food stands because he has bad luck. He knocks over all the food stands, everything, and then everyone just, I love that it's like, I kept reminding, someone said in the comments for the last portion, or part 7, where we were introduced into volume 2, that Chang-Chi was kind of like Princess Jasmine on the Tiger. No, Xi Lian is like Princess Jasmine when he knocks over the food stand and like all the ghosts like grab him. They're like, what are you gonna do? You gonna pay for this? And he's like, ah. And then, you know, Hua Chong shows up like Aladdin to save him. Like an overpowered Aladdin, right? But yeah, the bandage boy escapes, nowhere to be seen, and Xi Lian is about to get punished and hurt by all of the ghosts. And then at that moment, now the manhwa does not give this at all. The manhwa just cuts straight to Xi Lian showing up at Paradise Manor, which is not what happens in the novel. Instead, we have this waning moon officer. I'm going to put this here. The waning moon officer. And this part's rather interesting because they have a mask. They wear a mask. And in the mask, it is shown like they have like the little curly smiley face is the kind of mask they wear in the manhwa, right? That's kind of what we see. And they wear black. Okay. But the officer shows up and has clearly been sent, and it is a subordinate of Hua Chong. So they've been sent to go get Xi Lian and bring them straight to Paradise Manor, which is like, oh, you get the special invite. You get the VIP list. You're put right up front, right? And so all the other ghosts are like, oh my God, he gets to go to Paradise Manor. Who is this guy? And then at first they say, oh, they're the ones that beat the Lord. Oh, that was taught by the Lord. And that's how he won. make that distinction, right? They didn't just beat Hua Chong, they were given the special education needed to beat Hua Chong. So it's like, So we find out that Paradise Manor does not allow guests, which we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that. So I'm going to put San Long / Hua Chong over here. And so we have Paradise Manor, all right, which is funny because there are no guests allowed, which is rather curious, right? No guests allowed. Which begs the question, are like the moon officers, I'm assuming they're just ghosts that Hua Chong has hired, but we'll talk about the cursed shackle. So that is the one thing. The moon waning officer has a cursed shackle, which is curious, right? On his wrist. I'm going to make sure that doesn't stop. Yep. On his wrist. That Shelian notices and is like, that's weird. And then there's all of these dancing girls, which I very much got the vibes of like Wei Wuxian and Modao Zushi with the ghost girls. I very much got the vibe. The dancing girls, but Hua Chong pays no attention to them. It's just a facade. It's all just a facade. It's just there for looks, right? I feel like the dancing girls, the pretty palace, like it's all just there for looks and appearances to keep the other ghosts happy and at bay. Because it would be kind of weird if San Long was just there by himself. So there needs to be something there. And so I don't know if the ghost girls are puppets, if they're just there, like just apparitions that have just been hired to be there just to dance and that's it. And he's like, okay, go away. Like it's just an illusion, right? It's not real. It's not, as he says, it's not a home. So Shelian gets to go to the manor and everything. And the Half Moon officer, he notices, has the cursed shackle as well. But Shelian doesn't really get to say anything about it. And so anyway, we have the idea that the manor has all these seductive dancing women. It's almost like a temptation, right? But our boy Shelian, he is not fazed by the dancing girls. Again, does not like women, does not care. Chaste as can be, right? For the moment anyway. So then I love the description of Shelian looking straight through the women to see Hua Chong, and Hua Chong looking straight through the women to see Shelian. It's like nothing else matters in the room except them, right? So we have the idea of the gold foil palace game, which that entire game and the way that Hua Chong and Shelian each handle it is very much a metaphor for their two polar opposite ways of viewing things. And I love that that's the representation that MXTX gives us. So the idea of the Gold Palace game, it's kind of like if you stack up blocks to make a house, you stack up rocks to make a house, and you want it just to be perfect and neat, and the moment somebody knocks it down, you have to start all over. So Shelian notes that when he was a kid, he never wanted his houses to be destroyed in the games. He instead wished that he could have glue to glue the houses together so they could never be destroyed. That would stay perfect and intact. And if any of his houses or his palaces fell apart in the game, it said he would get too depressed to eat or sleep, and that he would just basically like collapse for days on end until his parents could coax him out. And he says a prayer right before entering the chamber that he doesn't want the palace to collapse. It's almost like an OCD. Like he's completely like him saying the prayer for it not to collapse is like an obsessive compulsive thing where he's like, does this. But that says a lot for Shelian, that he wants the relationships, and the foundations he builds to withstand anything. And it can apply to a lot of things. It can apply to the relationships he creates. He wants them to be able to withstand any harm. It can talk about like the missions that he starts, that he wants them to withstand any like trouble or pressure. It can talk about like the things that he builds, the things that he constructs. It can talk about the relationships with people, with communication, anything that Shelian is a part of constructing, he does not want broken down and destroyed. And so the fact that he reacted so like violently or reacted so viscerally to having those little palaces destroyed as a kid, it makes a lot of sense now why when his kingdom fell, it's like a metaphor for the entire kingdom of Shanlei, when it fell, it just devastated him. Like if a little kid's game as a kid could make him depressed for days where he wouldn't eat or sleep, the concept of him losing his entire kingdom, all the people he'd forged relationships with, everything that had been established and built up for him while he was a deity, the fact of that crumbling down, how that would have devastated him and completely ruined him, makes sense, right? It makes a lot of sense why he fell hard as he did, and for the last 800 years hasn't fully recovered, right? Which Hua Chong's trying to help him recover. He's trying to help him recover in his own little Hua Chong way. We'll talk about that. But the fact that it is a metaphor, for Shanli and his devastation at it falling. And kind of why he's sort of reduced to the way he is. Like his self-esteem is just so shattered. It's like it's taken 800 years for him to get over, if he's even gotten over his kingdom being destroyed. And he hasn't, right? We'll talk about that with the White Calamity. But yeah, it was a great metaphor. But then there's another side to it, because Shi Lian devotes all of himself into building these relationships. And he takes it so personally and so hard when they're destroyed that it's hard for him to recover from it. On the opposite end of the spectrum, Hua Chong instantly destroys the castle. Like it's nothing. He's on the polar opposite end of the spectrum, where Hua Chong doesn't care. He's just like, oh, this golden palace? Pfft, whatever, get rid of it. I can move on. Not a big deal to me. Like relationships, it seems like with the exception of Shi Lian, who Hua Chong adores and worships, with the exception of Shi Lian, Hua Chong has no connection to anything. He doesn't feel the need to forge any relationships, to like have any kind of material connection to the ghost realm, to the heavenly realm, nothing. Nothing matters to him except Shi Lian. And he's totally fine with that. He just tosses it aside like it's nothing. Right? So he's the polar opposite of Shi Lian. Shi Lian takes so much pride, so much seriousness in what he constructs, that when it's destroyed, he's devastated. But Hua Chong has no ties to anything emotionally. So if it's destroyed, who cares? But the downside of that is, if you care about nothing, what kind of life are you living? What's the point of existing? And that ties back to his point of existing is Shi Lian. It ties back to the little boy that fell from the bridge where nothing mattered. And so his whole point of existence is tied back to Shi Lian saying, well, if you have nothing, you can have me. And so it's tied back to Shi Lian. Which is romantic, but also kind of scary, because it's like Hua Chong he said when he was alive he wasn't a nice person. And we've seen him as a ghost, and it's like, yeah, there's clearly something there that's deep down inside, and there's a sincerity there. But it's also like Hua Chong's like, whatevs. And so he's not a nice person, but he is to Shi Lian. So it's like, it's the weirdest thing, right? We'll talk more about that as we go. But I love the idea of the gold foil palace being this representation of how Shi Lian and Hua Chong handle relationships and the things that they create. Hua Chong has no connection to them at all, so he's fine with discarding it quite easily, and Shi Lian gets far too attached. And so when he does have to discard something or go away from it, it wrecks him. So they're polar opposite sides of the coin, right? Absolute opposites. So I praise for the gold foil tower to not collapse, and then Hua Chong instantly destroys it and steps on it like he's not even bothered. Which is very interesting. But then he's so happy to see Shi Lian, right? And Shi Lian doesn't say anything about the palace being destroyed. It's almost like he expected it to happen, but he doesn't say anything about it. And so then he's so happy to see Shi Lian, and at the moment Hua Chong says that, the ladies all start to giggle. And he's like, get out. he's like, nope, I need to be close to my Gege, you need to get out of here. And so they all are dismissed from the hall. And it's interesting here at this point. So Hua Chong knows about Chen Chu. So he knows about Chen Chu being there, being a heavenly official. He knew about it. But he did not know about, he doesn't let on if he knows the Wind Master or not. Hua Chong hasn't revealed that yet. And Shi Lian realizes that. He's like, okay, He knows about Changchu being here, but does not know about the Windmaster. So Shi Lian's trying to figure out a way that he can say, I'm here for this reason, but not lie to Hua Chong. And it's kind of like, how do I get out of the situation without lying to Hua Chong? That's what Shi Lian is trying to figure out, right? He's afraid to admit about the Windmaster because he's not been revealed yet. And so then, to kind of change the subject, Shi Lian says, well, is this your real form or not? And the manhwa shows... the manhwa shows Hua Chong in this incredibly sexy black outfit that I'm like, it's like he just changed clothes, got refreshed, like leaned back in the chair and was like, just had his glass of wine, ready for Shi Lian to walk on his doorstep. He was ready to go. But yeah, he asks if it's his real form or not, and he does look a little bit different in the manhwa. He gets a little bit different each time. I don't think this is completely his real form. I still think it's something he's putting on. Because whenever Shi Lian asks that, he kind of stiffens, like he forgot. Like he forgot that he told Shi Lian that, and he just kind of rolls with it, and Shi Lian's like, oh, not bad! And he seems like that appeases him. That pleases him enough to go along with it, right? So at this point, Shi Lian brings up the ring. He's like, when we met again, you said you would be in your real form, so here you are. He's like, now this ring that you gave me, and they focus so little on it. I'm like MXTX, how dare you? She knows what she's doing as an author because Shi Lian brings it up because we, the audience, want him to bring it up to San Long, and Hua Chong's just like, oh, it's nothing big, just keep it for fun. I'm like, how dare you? How dare you, sir? He's like, oh, just keep it for fun. It's no big deal. I was like, does the ring have his ashes in it? I don't know. I'm thinking that it does, only because he told him on the cart way back when that he just didn't care what happened to his ashes. Whatever happened, happened. He wouldn't care. So that makes me think that nonchalant attitude, I think they're somehow in the ring, but I don't want to know whether they are or not. We'll find that out as we go, but I'm just going to file that away. But yeah, it just says, oh, it's nothing, it's not significant. You can just keep it for funsies. I'm like, but it's almost like MXTX knew that we, the audience, were going to question it. So she was like, I'm just going to get it out of the way now so we can move on and not give you a clear answer. Because it's not time for it, clearly. But yeah, so we get into this conversation where Shi Lian is like, oh, well, I figured that the Paradise Manor would be like a brothel or something. And I agreed. I thought Paradise Manor would be this big party place where everybody was like hanging out, kind of like the Gambler's Den, only you say Paradise Manor, you think it might have like ladies dancing around, kind of like what there are here. But I figured it'd be open to the public. So when the ghost said there weren't any guests, I was like, oh, so it's like a VIP private place? It's very private, like nobody's there. And so he's like, oh, I thought it'd be like a brothel or like the red light district. And Hua Chong's like, I don't frequent the red light district. So we have Shi Lian talking about his promiscuity and that's a no. And then we have Hua Chong saying that he does not visit the red light district, which I'll bring that up again at the end of this when we talk about the manhwa. But so neither Shi Lian nor Hua Chong are promiscuous. They don't get around and get on. They ain't no Pei Ming, right? They don't get on with any other ghost ladies or anything like that, which is a nice little commonality that they share. I am fully under the guise and belief that Hua Chong is saving himself for one deity and one deity only, and his name is Shi Lian. And Shi Lian just doesn't realize he's saving himself for Hua Chong yet. He does not realize. Shi Lian's like, I've never felt that way about anybody, right? Yet. So, although we, the audience, can clearly see that they're attracted to one another. But yeah, so no red light district. He says that he, of course not, doesn't visit there. And then he touches base on the idea that the Paradise Manor, I'm going to kind of put it up here. The Paradise Manor is a residence, not a home. That it's not a home. That, again, this is just all a facade. It's a house that he's built and he's renovated. He's just keeping it for looks. It does not have any sentimental value whatsoever. It's not a home. It's just a place he's staying at. If he has to chill out somewhere, that's where he goes to get away from everybody. And so Shilian's like, well, it's not a home. And he's like, if you live alone, it's not a home. It's just a residence. A home means that more than one person is together there. Which is like, hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Shilian. And Shilian's like, oh. He's like, well, if that's the case, I've been homeless for the last 800 years. And it's like, you just want to be like, I want to be like that puppet meme that's just like staring blankly ahead. Like, come on, Shilian, quit making us feel bad for you. And so Shilian's like, well, he's like, I guess that I've been homeless all this time. And San Long brings up that he's like, well, what about your shrine? He's like, I wouldn't mind staying in a place like that shrine. And I was like, you could not be more obvious. Like, I want in-game in this series. I won't spoil the other MXTX series I've read, Modao Zushi. I won't spoil that, but I want in-game Shilian and Hwa-Chong to just be in that little shrine, making terrible soup and hanging out in that little cot for the end of their days and just picking up leaves and sticks outside the shrine. Like, I want that because that clearly seems like what they both want. It's so funny because in the last set of chapters, right before Shilian went off with the Windmaster, you had Junwoo. We'll talk about him later on. You had Junwoo where he was giving Shilian this giant, beautiful mansion that was epic and gorgeous, right? And Shilian was kind of like, he didn't even go in because he felt empty. He was like, I don't want to go in there. It doesn't feel like home. Doesn't feel like home. It's just a residence. But at the same time, you have Hwa-Chong, who's like, yeah, I've got this big manor and there's all these ladies and gold and whatever, but it's nothing. It's not a home because I don't have anybody to share it with. And then you have the shrine and all the moments of them together. And I'm like, what they both want is at that shrine with themselves together. And I want that to be in-game so badly. I just want it so bad. Like, why can't we have nice things, right? But it's hinted at, but the idea of it being a residence and not a home. Like I feel like, we'll talk about Chi-Rong. I feel like if there were not other circumstances, aka Chi-Rong, at play, then Hwa-Chong would be all about just giving up Paradise Manor, the Ghost Realm, Ghost City, and leaving. But he can't because of reasons, and we'll talk about that with this. So, Shilian asks about getting help to get the bandage boy, and Hwa-Chong's like, oh yeah, if you just wait here, we'll help you. Yeah, I'll help you. Just kind of wait here. It'll be fine. When he said just wait, I was like, oh, well, we'll solve that in the next arc. No, he just brought him here right now. It took him like 10 minutes. Like, that's how powerful Hwa-Chong is. He just sent his guard to go get the boy, and he was like that, like there. Like, Hwa-Chong does not play around, and I'm kind of here for it. So, it's interesting that Shilian, he's talking about the gambler's den, and he makes a comment. He's like, you know, this could all blow up in your face, right? This could all become something, you know, that gets out of hand for you, right? Do you realize that? And Hwa-Chong is like, oh, Shilian, sweet summer child. He's like, do you realize what people do here? He's like, and he says that the heavenly officials, he's like, they come here all the time. He's like, I like that Hwa-Chong establishes that the heavenly officials, they come to the Ghost City. He calls out the corruption and hypocrite attitude of heavenly officials real quick. He is very quick to call the heavenly officials hypocrites, and he points out why. He says, he's like, the heavenly officials label the Ghost City as this den of corruption, as this sinful place that's just chaos. He's like, but do you realize that some of the heavenly officials, they disguise themselves and come down here and do all sorts of bad things themselves? But they do it because they can't be detected by anybody. It's like their own it's like an underground Vegas they get to come to whenever they want to. He's like, they come here all the time and conduct shady business. And Hwa-Chong seems to delight in the idea of like pointing out their hypocrisy and catching them in the act. And he's like, if I get the chance to like wipe somebody out, all the better. So Hwa-Chong is very much out to expose the hypocrisy and wipe out heavenly officials. He's not messing around, right? And that kind of ties back to the chapters before where Hwa-Chong was talking about like whenever Changchu is like, well, how dare you conduct all this sin here? And Hwa-Chong's like, yeah, that's what this place is. It's not the heavenly realm because y'all won't let it be. So what else are we supposed to do? you either go to one place or the other, right? It's not all sunshine and rainbows. So Hua Chong's kind of just elaborating further on that, being like, yeah, no, this is supposed to be a sinful place, but your heavenly officials come here and I get to wipe them out if they do, if I catch them in the act. And it's like, Hua Chong is terrifying. He's absolutely terrifying, but you still love him. It's like in the craziest of ways, right? So he talks about how, the heavenly, he talks about, it's very apparent early on that Hua Chong, it's not that he hates Chainshu, but he does think that Chainshu is naive and dumb. He's like, the heavens must be blinded to have let someone like him ascend. And of course, because Shi Lian is our precious cinnamon bun that is self-loathing, he goes, well, I feel kind of guilty because they let me ascend 3 times, so they must be blind. I'm like, I'm over Shi Lian's self-loathing. I'm like, stop it, Shi Lian. Just stop it. But he, says he's ascended 3 times, so the heavens may be blind. But yeah, San Long, he makes fun of Chainshu. And so then Shi Lian brings up again about how the gambling could blow up in his face. Like, yeah, fine, you could catch heavenly officials down here in disguise. That's great. But he's like, what if things get out of hand? He's like, isn't this too much? Like, do you think it's not eventually going to have some, consequences that are bad? And San Long, he establishes why he is the way that he is and why he's not left the ghost city and all of that. And the main reason is kind of his MO. It feels like this is like San Long's thesis in this series. It feels like it's his thesis. He's like, if I can't control it, someone else will. And Shi Lian's like, I didn't realize that San Long was this obsessed with power and control. And it's like, yeah. And you kind of get where he's coming from. He wants to be in control and have the power in the ghost realm because he's right. If he doesn't, somebody else will. And that someone else might be bad. So San Long kind of is like, I need to be in control because I know in San Long's mind, he's like, I have the best interests towards Shi Lian. Mainly and no one else. But he's like, if I'm not in control, somebody else will be. And he doesn't like the idea of someone ruling over him. I'm going to just put Jun Woo over here for the time being. Just gonna point him up here and put a big old little thing saying that he is in control of the heavenly realm and he is in control of the ghost realm. Just gonna put that up there for now. Just gonna point that out because we're gonna do something with that in a minute. My theory brain is like going crazy, but San Long is like, if I don't control the ghost realm, someone else will, and that will not be good. So I don't want to be controlled by anybody but myself, right? And so then Shi Lian is like, oh, could that be Qi Rong? And I've got him way down here, so we'll bring him up again in just a little bit. But the Bandage Boy, before Shi Lian can really get any more, do I have anything on Qi Rong up here? I may not, so I might as well go ahead and bring him up. Because, yeah, he says, if I don't have control of the ghost realm, someone else will. And so Shi Lian's like, oh, are you talking about Qi Rong? And then, no, what I'm thinking of is the trash that gets thrown out. We're going to wait. We're going to hold off on that. These chapters have so much stuff happening. I don't want to get out of order for my notes. So we'll talk about Qi Rong. But that's one of the reasons he wants to maintain control. So Qi Rong does not take control of the ghost city or get any more power than he already has. We'll talk more about that in a minute. It's like MXTX packs so much into these chapters. They went by so quickly, but now that I'm looking at my notes, I'm like, no, there's actually a lot that happened in these. So the Bandage Boy gets brought back, and Shi Lian, it's so cute how he tries to soothe him. He's like sitting down, like Shi Lian is like such a dad. He's like a boomer. He's such a dad. He was so good with Banyu, and he tries to be so good with little Ying. But we find out that the boy is from Yong'an, not Shi Lian's home, which is very curious. So if he's from Yong'an, how did he have the human face disease? That's the big question in all of this, because Shi Lian's like, how could you have had the human face disease? Because Yongin, by that point, it was already exterminated. And so when he brings that up where he's from, Shi Lian asks, do you know the White Calamity? And the manhwa cuts this out. Why? Because it's it's one of the best parts of the entire chapter set. But why the manhwa leaves it out, I don't know. But they do. But this visually asks if he's met the White Calamity. And so we established the White Calamity. And I'm gonna put the White Calamity up here. I'm gonna put the White Calamity up here and just kind of talk about it real quick. So the White Calamity, as we come to find out, has a mask. They call it the cry smiling mask. And so the mask is split in two, and there's like one face, like one half of it is turned up like it's smiling, the other half is crying, which is creepy. Very creepy. I find it interesting that the masks of Hwa-Chongs, which they're ghosts, they're all ghosts. So, and we saw in the Ghost City in the manhwa that people are wearing masks all the time. Even the attendants are wearing masks. So that part's not surprising. I guess it's not surprising the White Calamity has a mask too. But that they're all dressed in funeral clothes, like a damn Grim Reaper, in white, with the mask. And that it, from what we know, is the cause of the human face disease. And what we find out is it was exterminated by Junwoo. Okay, so Junwoo exterminated it. But here's the thing. They say that he exterminated it, but Ling Wen's like, oh, well, the White Calamity, they've been exterminated. But even if they were around, I was like, so as far as we know, the White Calamity's dead. No more. You would think if the Heavenly Emperor killed it, it would be gone forever, right? Or it would be to a point where it would be reincarnated. That's what we are assuming. We're assuming the White Calamity, as far as we know, is no more. Okay. That whole paragraph at the end, of chapter 39 or 40, one of those two, is so good in its description because, again, the parallels. There is this White Calamity and Shi Lian are connected somehow and they have parallels with one another. It's very creepy. I don't like it. Because here's the thing. It talks about how the White Calamity is the cause of plague, a bringer of misfortune, right? Well, Shi Lian has been described as a god of misfortune. So you have a ghost of misfortune, a god of misfortune. They both dress in white, like all white. Obviously, the White Calamity wears a mask. Shi Lian does not. But the last paragraph of that chapter, where it talks about Shi Lian standing on top of the highest tower in the city, looking down, and there's a field of corpses from the battle, and there's the White Calamity standing in the middle of it. And it's almost like it reminded me of a mirror or of a reflection, where it's Shi Lian looking down, and then the White Calamity looks up, and the White Calamity waves at him. Like, waves at him. That's the creepiest thing. But I'm like, just that imagery of it mirroring and them looking so similar and both being called gods and ghosts of misfortune, there's something there. But we don't know enough about the backstory to know what it is. MXTX is just like, here's some breadcrumbs. We'll sprinkle this on here. Here you go. And then go with it. But yeah, I find it interesting too that Junwoo, he warned Shi Lian not to go down and fight against the White Calamity. He warned him, supposedly, or Shi Lian says he was warned that he should not go down there. He did anyway, but then Junwoo eliminated the White Calamity around the same time that Shi Lian was punished and, kicked out of the Heavenly Realm the first time. And then he goes back later after he ascends and fights Junwoo and is immediately kicked out again. So again, that second ascension, we ain't talking about it, but there's something interesting there. And we've still got like 7 volumes to go. So I'm sure it'll come up, but fascinating, right? Fascinating. But yeah, there's just something about Shi Lian and the White Calamity that they're tied together and they're so similar. I don't know. It felt like a mirror image. Like Shi Lian was looking in a mirror at this harbinger of destruction of his own people. I don't know. It just, there's something there. And I'm going to file it away until MXTX gives us another handful of breadcrumbs, right? So I put down here, raised his head to wave at him, and the cry-smiling mask haunts him. And Shilian was so disturbed and haunted by the memory of the White Calamity that he had like a grip on the bandage boy's shoulder, and the bandage boy's like, okay. So, and it's also funny that we have the cover of this has Shilian holding who we presume is Hua Chong Sanlong when he was a kid, and then you have Shilian taking after Ying, the bandage boy, so I find that interesting. But yeah, so Hua Chong offers to take care of the bandage boy, to take the bandages off and to redress everything and to put them back on, right? He offers to help the bandage boy instead of Shilian, because I think Hua Chong knows how much Shilian is affected by this, and he can tell, even if he doesn't know the full history of the calamity, which I think he does, even though if he doesn't know the full history, he can tell that Shilian is freaked out by this and that is not in a good mindset. And he tells Shilian, he's like, oh, you're just tired. And I'm like, no, I think Hua Chong knows more than he's letting on, but he doesn't want to get Shilian freaked out anymore, so he's just letting it go. And Shilian's like, oh, no, I'm fine. It's great. And Shilian, it's almost like Shilian, he's like, I want to dress these bandages. It's almost like it is a chance for Shilian to, like, atone in a way for what's happened to the bandage boy. Despite him saying he's not from Shanli, that he's from Yongin, it's almost like Shilian's like, no, this is my atonement. I need to take the bandages off. I need to deal with this. I need to process it. I need to face it head on, not run away, and just help him the best I can, because I've caused this boy to be scared. I want to help him earn my trust again. I want him to be able to trust me, right? So he helps the boy, like helps take the bandages off and does it himself. And then he talks about how he wants to take him with him. That Shilian, he wants to not put him in a jar like Banyu, but he wants to take him along with him. And in the manhwa, it talks about him becoming a cultivator. And I'm like, can ghosts become cultivators? I guess they can. I guess if deities can, ghosts can as well and do cultivation. I guess it's just a process, so why wouldn't they? And maybe he said that whole cultivation line before he realized he was a ghost and not human. But he wants to take him along with him. And Hua Chong is like, hey, if you're, like, don't torture yourself. Because I think Hua Chong in some sense knows that Shilian is a bit self-destructive, a little bit. And so he's like, if you're going to just, like, take this kid with you to torture yourself and feel guilty all the time, he's like, don't do that. He's like, no. He's like, just leave him here. I'll make sure the kid's fed. It'll be fine. But Shilian's like, well, no, it's not just a matter of him having basic needs. Because when they first ask him his name, the boy can't respond. He can barely speak. And Hua Chong makes the comment like, well, maybe after not speaking for so long, he's forgot how to. I wonder why he would understand that. Maybe because it's happened to him before when he was the bandage boy. I don't know. But in any case, Shilian's like, no. He's like, I could leave him here at the Ghost Palace. He would probably be safe because Hua Chong clearly has control over everything here. He probably wouldn't have anything cause him harm. But the point is, Shilian wants to bring him with him to try to teach him how to speak again, to counsel him, to guide him through his, like, you know, his feelings of terror and grief. And he's like, if he stays in the Ghost Palace, that's not really going to happen, because Hua Chong makes a point of saying that only he, Hua Chong's like, or Shilian is like, only I really have the patience to do this with Ying. I don't think Hua Chong has the patience to guide this kid, which is absolutely correct. Hua Chong would probably just give the kid some food and be like, okay, go away. He wouldn't have anything to do with him. And Shilian's like, no, I want to guide him and help him get better, and that's just not going to happen if he stays in the ghost realm. So he's like, no, I need to take him with me. And so at that point, Shilian notes Yiming, which is the scimitar that's on his waist, and it has a silver eye that opens up, and there's a red orb in the center of it, like the eyeball, like the iris, and it starts twirling around. And that is almost like a signal to Sanlong that something's happening, right? So he's like, oh, that's a signal. I gotta go take care of some stuff. I'll be right back. Just hang out. And the bandage boy gets sent away because he's tired. And so Shilian, because he's Shilian, and will not sit still for 5 seconds, our scrap collector decides that he's going to go find the bandage boy. He's like, I can't sit around here and wait anymore. I'm going to go see if I can find him. And at that point, he notes that the Waning Moon officer is sneaking around. And so he follows him. And he follows him to these doors. And I love the visual. Like, I can't wait to see it animated in the Donghua, but I love the visual of him, like, sneaking around behind him. And when they get to the doors and there's nowhere else to go, he uses Ryuyi to, like, get himself up in the rafters. And he, like, jumps up in the rafters. And when the guy turns around, he doesn't see him. And it's like, he's hidden. I love that visual. I absolutely love it. But he follows him. And I love that he calls himself, like, a gecko. Like, Shilian's, like, crawling around like a gecko on the rafters. Again, I want to see it animated. But he gets to the statue that's of a woman. We don't understand if that... Sanlong did make the comment that he was renovating the manor. So the statue of the woman could have come from before, but he's just not updated it yet. And I don't think that I don't think Shilian saw the other side of it. I thought what was going to happen is that the statue was of Shilian. And when Shilian turned around and came to the other side of the statue, he would notice that it was him because Sanlong worshipped Shilian. But at the same time, they're in the ghost realm, and so I'm sure that if Sanlong had other guards around, he wouldn't want them to know that he had a statue of Shilian. I'm assuming that's the case. But in any state, the doors in the palace, in the manor, are locked by magic. So they're not just trap doors, they're like magical trap doors. So when you just open the door randomly, it looks like an ordinary room, but that's clearly not what it is. And so Shilian figures out that you have to roll 2 6s onto this jade plate in order to go into the secret room that the Waning Moon officer goes into. And Shilian's like, well, that's not gonna work. I'm not lucky. I thought that Shilian was gonna keep trying to, like, get the dice to work before he got 2 6s and use the techniques that Sanlong gave him. I thought that's how it was gonna go. But we don't know for sure if, like, if you roll the dice wrong and don't get the 2 6s, does the trapdoor get destroyed? Does it lead you to the wrong room? What ends up happening? Does it sound an alarm? Shilian doesn't seem to want to risk that, so he just paces back and forth while he's thinking of what to do. And he realizes, he's like, I've come here for a reason. He's like, but I need to take care of that first before investigating it any further. And I like that as Hua Chong comes to find him, Shilian's like, okay, I need to get back to the mission, but he's like, do I tell Hua Chong about this guard sneaking around, or is the guard sneaking around something that I'm just not supposed to know? Is Hua Chong in on it? So he thinks he's going to try to find a way to discern whether Hua Chong is in on the guard sneaking around, or if the guard is doing it without Hua Chong knowing. That's what he's trying to figure out. But I love that Hua Chong comes up and he's kind of annoyed. He's not really annoyed. He's just kind of like, I've been looking for you, Gege. Where'd you run off to? Like, I left you for 5 minutes. It reminded me so much of when Lan Wangji takes Wushen back into the city and Wushen's been injured. And Wangji's like, I'll be right back. And Wushen's like, and he gets up and leaves and goes on like an adventure. And then when he finally meets up with Lan Wangji again, Lan Wangji's like, I was gone for 3 hours. And what did you do? Like, that's the same exact vibe. The same vibe that I had in that moment. I was like, nope, Hua Chong is channeling his Lan Wangji in that moment. It's great. So then we bring up Qirong. I've been wanting to bring up Qirong this whole discussion, and we finally are at the point in the novel that this happens. Again, tied to the fact of why Sanlong has to be in control. Because Shilian's like, oh, did you go do something? That was quick. And Sanlong's like, yeah, I just had to take care of some trash. Throw him out. And that's when he's like, oh, trash, you mean Qirong? And he's like, yes. He's like, I was dealing with soldiers that Qirong sent, and that Qirong wants control of the Ghost City. Which would make sense, right? Because Qirong is like, they've established he's some of the worst of the worst. So the gambling den being the worst of the worst, it would make sense Qirong would want his hands on it. But Sanlong's like, I don't want to let that happen. So, because it's too beneficial to Sanlong to have the Ghost City. It allows him to, like, spy on the heavenly officials. It allows him to keep tabs on so many of the ghosts and the mortal realm. It makes sense why Sanlong does not want to relinquish control of that. So he's like, no, not gonna let that happen. But I just love that we get little ties to the Ghost City and Qirong, and we're getting closer to seeing Qirong. We're getting closer. I feel like Qirong is going to be the first, even though the White Calamity is the first calamity along with Hua Chong that we brought up, I feel like Qirong is going to be the next calamity we meet in person. feel like that's going to be a thing, and I'm pretty excited about it. Could be wrong. Could be the Blackwater. Don't even know. We'll see, right? So Shilian, he wants to know what Hua Chong is hiding, and if it's something that he is hiding from Shilian, or if it's something that's being hidden from Hua Chong. But before he can even get to that, to talking to him, Hua Chong's like, hey, I want to show you something. And the manhwa does not get to this part. So the manhwa doesn't get to this part. I don't know if it's going to come up in the next chapter, but I before we talk about the Hall of Weapons, which is where this ends and where my theory crafting is like, there is a little chapter 80 of the manhwa. It does something really, and I'll show you guys some pictures of it. It does something kind of weird. It shows that, like, whenever the bandage boy, Ying, was, first getting his bandages changed, he was starving and he wanted food really badly. And Shilian kind of lamented. He's like, oh my gosh, this poor kid, even if he's a ghost, he's been starving for like hundreds of years, possibly. Like this kid needs some nourishment. And so he asks San Long, and in the novel, San Long has a bowl of fruit, and the kid just eats the whole bowl of fruit. Star Ember was like, no, what if I gave him like a whole meal? Like in Star Ember in the manhwa, it's like a spread across this giant table. It's like a big old spread, and it's for the kid, and they're all sitting there eating. Now, this chapter in the manhwa, maybe it happens later in the novel, and we just don't get to it yet. But I figured that y'all in the Discord would have said something about it, so maybe, maybe not. If I've read ahead in the manhwa and I wasn't supposed to get to this part yet, we'll get to it next week. But what happens is there's this big spread, and they're eating, and the chapter seems to leave off with Shilian and Hua Chong going to the armory. But that's where the chapter leaves off at. So I was a little bit confused, because in the novel it goes Bandage Boy eats fruit, Hua Chong leaves to go take care of trash, Shilian follows Soldier, and then we go to the armory. In the manhwa, it goes giant food and conversation with Shilian and Hua Chong, and then we're going to the armory. So, like, the whole thing with the Waning Moon Officer is left out of the manhwa. It's, like, not even there. And instead, they expand upon the Bandage Boy and the food. And we have Hua Chong and Shilian eating with Ying. We have him eating with him. And during this conversation, Hua Chong offers Shilian some wine. And Shilian takes a sip of it and then spits it out. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Were you not supposed to have that? And Shilian's like, oh, no. He's like, with my cultivation, I cannot have, there's no alcohol, no sex, and no hatred. That's his MO. No alcohol, no sex, no hatred. Which is fine. It's a good philosophy to have. And so, and Hua Chong's like, oh, I'm sorry, I made you break your vow. And Shilian, now, how true these vows are, because Shilian goes, oh, well, no, it's okay. Occasional alcohol is fine, but no promiscuity. No sex. It's like, how much you gonna hold up to that, Shilian? How much you gonna hold up to that? Which is gonna beg the question, why these three things? Because San Long makes the comment, he's like, I thought cultivators were chasing after pleasures. I thought cultivation was to enhance all of that. He's like, why would you deny yourself that? And Shilian's like, that's just how I do things. This is just for me. So my question is, and my theory crafting here, is that at some point, something has happened with alcohol that has led to something bad happening. Something has happened to a relationship or love that he does not want repeated. Doesn't have to be sex. And then hatred is something that he is avoiding. That I feel, I don't know about the sex angle of it or the relationship angle of it. I feel, though, that something's happened where he's drank before. And things have gone bad, and so he's decided not to do that again. I feel like he might have loved someone in the past and things went awry, and he's like, I'm never going to love anything or do anything like that again. And I feel like when he ascended the second time and was full of hatred, it let something bad happen. Or it could have even been when he was facing the White Calamity. He was full of hatred and then something bad happened. So he's decided to leave all that behind. Don't need any alcohol. Don't need no sex. Don't need any hatred. I'm going to be a pure, divine being. And Hua Chong's like, okay. And so in the Manhwa chapter, Hua Chong's like, he's like, you have such good luck. And he's like, there's really nothing to it. And so he establishes in the Manhwa chapter, and maybe this will come back up in the novel, but he establishes that luck is something that you can pass on. It's something you can give to other people, like powers. And so he's like, just like you can give spiritual power to someone, you can give luck to someone. So in the end of the Manhwa chapter, he gives Shi Lian this pair of dice, and he's like, I'll give you as much luck as you need. And it's like, so I don't know if that chapter 80 was just an added on chapter that Star Ember was like, I just want to add it on because I can, and I don't want to draw the Moon Soldier, if that was her whole point, or if she wasn't ready to draw the armory yet, if that was the case. Or if it's something that's going to come up in a later conversation in the novel and Star Ember just drew it out of order. I don't know. Not entirely sure. But in any case, it's a really cute chapter. It's got some really good artwork. But yeah, I like the idea of Shi Lian being like, no alcohol, no sex. And Hua Chong's just like, we can do no alcohol. Again, these two, they're saving themselves for each other. You just know it, right? But then there's the armory. Okay, the armory. So I love the way that this chapter is described. It's also kind of scary, right? Because Hua Chong leads him to these big set of doors that these giant like sculptures of beasts are guarding. The imagery is so cool. Like it's these big sculptures of beasts, and then the beasts kind of curl away to reveal it. And Shi Lian is immediately like hit with this blast of killing intent, which makes sense if you have a room full of spiritual weapons. They've all got these like spirits with them, and they're weapons, so they're designed to kill people. So of course there'd be like a blast of killing intent. But I'm not gonna lie, the whole reveal of the armory with all the swords and weapons, if y'all have ever watched Beauty and the Beast, did it not kind of seem like Hua Chong was the Beast and Shi Lian was Belle, and he's like, okay, open your eyes now. And instead of a library, it's this armory of swords and weapons. That's all I could picture is him being like, and then Shi Lian's like, and it's just like all these swords everywhere. And he's just like, oh, because it describes him as and he's like looking around like he doesn't know what to do. And he's like, may I touch them? Consent is important, y'all. And San Long is like, as you like. And it's like, ah! And so Shi Lian just goes crazy. And it says his hands instantly flew out to feel the many treasures hung on the walls, caressing them as if drunken, and saying, these are all masterpieces. This sword is splendid. It must be a sight to behold on the battlefield. And this one too, and that saber. And Hua Chong's just leaning against the wall near the door, watching Shi Lian's face go red with thrill and obsession. So Shi Lian's face, like blushing at the swords. Because here's the thing. Shi Lian was a martial god at first. And they make a comment. They're like, what red-blooded man wouldn't go crazy about an armory full of all these weapons? Who wouldn't like them? So I do like that in terms of establishing, because so far in both the manhwa and in the novel interpretations, there's almost been like a delicate softness to Shi Lian. And I think that it gets interpreted as like a feminine quality a lot. But no, we get reminded that no, Shi Lian is a man. He is a man. And so we have the idea that he was a martial god that clearly saw battle and used weapons. Right? And even he is not resistant to that. Right? But then something happened and he gave up and tried to strive for this idealistic peace. Right? And it could be that he saw like his kingdom fall and that the battle was pointless and decided, I'm not going to use that again. No. And then from there, it went even further to the point where he's just picking up scraps and as humble as can be. But here's the thing. No matter how much you change in your life, you are still the same person. And that's kind of a theme in this story a little bit, where Shi Lian, even though he's changed so much over the last 800 years, it's still him. He is still him. He's not reincarnated into a different person. He's still Shi Lian. And so he gets this, like, his face like flushes with excitement at seeing these weapons, because that calls back to how he was at the beginning. And so he examines each piece so intently, he was reluctant to turn his head around. what do I think? What? He's like, do you like it? And he's like, I do. Do you really like it? I really do. And Hua Chong snickers. And his heart was racing too much to notice. He unsheathed a shimmering, verdant blade of at least 4 feet, marveling as he did so. And he says, are any of them good enough for you? And he says, they're all good. And he's like, I was thinking you didn't have any useful weapons on hand. So if there's anything good enough, you can pick something for yourself. But since you like them all, I'll give them all to you. And that seems to snap him back to reality because he's like, oh, no need. I have no use for weapons anyway. And he's like, really? But it's obvious you like them. And he's like, liking doesn't mean I have to own it. I haven't used one in years. Just looking makes me happy. Besides, I'd have nowhere to put them if you gave them all to me. And he's like, then I'll give you this whole armory. I'll give you this library. It's yours. So yeah, so it is interesting that despite him being so like drunkenly obsessed with the swords, he does know that he's not going to use them. He is in somewhat self-control. So he does have self-control still. Right? Despite all that, it's like the look, even though he does touch, look but don't touch, right? It's that idea. Xilian knows the difference between actually like fawning over something and liking it and having to use it. That's the big difference, right? I like that he has that difference between himself known. So he's like, I'll give you the entire armory. And it's almost like Hua Chong, I feel like Hua Chong's trying to remind Xilian that you can fight. You can be the martial god you once were. It's fine if you like these swords. It's fine if you like this. It's okay. You can still be humble and also fight for what you believe is right. And Xilian's like, not quite there, right? And so he says, I'll give you the whole armory. And he thought it was a joke. And he's like, oh, there's no way I can take away a room this big. And Hua Chong's not joking. He's like, no need to take it away. He's like, I'll just give you the property too. You just come visit when you're free. He's like, I'll just let you come here anytime and get whatever weapon you want. And he's like, oh, no. He's like, it requires constant maintenance. I'd hate to see the weapons suffer. Because yeah, just like we've established, the weapons in this world have a spirit within them. So he's like, oh, no. He's like, I love all these weapons, but I don't want them to like not be taken care of. He said he placed the sword back into its holder and said nostalgically, once upon a time I owned an armory like this too, but it was burnt down. All these weapons are precious devices to be desired. You have to cherish them. And he's like, well, that's easy too. If I'm free, I can help you maintain the armory. And then he's like, oh, well, I don't have the guts to ask my lord, the Ghost King, to do that chore for me. And it's like, no, he's offering to do it with you. Like, he wants to be with you. You dummy? No. And so that's when Jun Woo's warning comes back from when he left the mission about the scimitar, that being a cursed blade of misfortune. So, let's establish a few things real quick. Xilian, and I've run out of space on Whiteboard Kun, but I'm going to just put this little note right up here as I'm running out of room. Xilian had his own armory, but it burned down. Right? But it burned down. And Hua Chong has his own armory that he was offering to Xilian. Jun Woo has an armory that he let Xilian take a weapon from. He's also warned Xilian of Hua Chong and Yiming. Okay? So we've got that. And so he said it was a cursed blade of misfortune, a weapon of evil. Don't touch it, don't let it touch you, or the consequences could be unimaginable. And Xilian decides to ask anyway. He's like, of all these weapons, they don't come close to your scimitar, right? And he like cocks his brow. He's like, oh, you've heard of it? And he's like, only some hearsay. And again, Hua Chong snickers. And he's like, oh, I bet it's not nice hearsay. Did someone tell you that it was made from a blood ritual, that I sacrificed live humans? And Xilian's like, oh, not like that. Everybody has their own bad rumors, but we don't have to believe them. He's like, I don't know if I might have the honor of seeing it. And he's like, well, you've already saw it. And he's like, here you go. This is him. And then the scimitar that was on his waist was twirled in his direction. He thought that carved silver eyelids started squinting into a crescent shape. And like it was like it's happy, almost like it was happy, right? Because if it was into a crescent shape, it would be like if the eyelid was like this, like it's like haha, like here's like the hilt of the sword, and then there's the eyelid, and it's like I'm so happy. Like the scimitar's happy to see him, maybe. But here's my thing. Here's my crack theory for this week. And again, y'all can snicker and laugh Hwa Chong style into your beverage as you listen to this, but I'm just gonna throw it out here. Don't want to be confirmed, don't want to be deconfirmed, don't want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong. Just in the comments, if you feel like saying anything, just put Hwa Chong snicker in bold and move on. But here's my theory for this week. Is this story setting up a love triangle? Is it setting up that both Junwoo and Hwa Chong want Shilian? Is it setting that up? Because here's the thing. You have, obviously, we know Hwa Chong loves Shilian. We know it. We know Hwa Chong loves Shilian. He would do anything for him. I wonder if he found out that, I'm assuming the armory that Shilian's talking about is the one in Shanli that burned down when the White Calamity and all that happened. When the kingdom was destroyed, I'm assuming that's the armory he's talking about. Hwa Chong is like, I've got this armory I'll just give you since you love it so much. So I have a feeling that Hwa Chong knows Shilian loves swords and weapons and wants to offer him this armory, which is such an ironic thing because Shilian's like such a gentle soul, but we know from the past he's been a god that's battled other monsters. So him liking weapons, it's not totally surprising. It's very chilling and kind of off-putting to see Shilian, like, who's been against violence, to suddenly like grab a hold of all these weapons and like almost be drunk with this ecstasy of it. But it's an interesting angle for his character to get reminded of that with him, and that to prove Shilian is a very complicated character, right? But Hwa Chong's going to offer him this whole armory, I'm assuming because he knew that he liked it and had his old one destroyed. So he's like, here you go, here's your own library bell. You get your own books, it's fine, right? But the thing of it is that at the end of the day, Hwa Chong wants to be with Shilian in that armory. He wants to make a home, not just a residence. He's like, we'll take the armory to your little shack if you want to. Like, Hwa Chong is willing to go anywhere with him, do anything with him, as long as he's with him, right? And it's not, the funny thing is, there's not a control angle to it. He just genuinely loves Shilian and wants to be with him. He doesn't want to control him or dictate anything that he does, right? That's huckleberries at my feet. But here's the thing. Junwoo had an armory, gave Shilian a sword from the armory, does not want him near Hwa Chong at all, right? Offers him a palace. Somebody in the Discord was like, had a picture of Junwoo in the palace, like, Junwoo gave Shilian a palace. Bitches love palaces. Like, he offers Shilian his old palace restored, right? And my thing with that is, what if inside that old palace is an armory just like what he had in the past? But the thing of it is, Shilian never went inside that palace because he didn't feel like he deserved it. It was not a home. It was just a residence. So the thing of it is that he also seems to want to have like some angle of control over Shilian. Not a lot. And I'm going to, for those of you defending Junwoo, play devil's advocate. He does seem like he's looking out for Shilian. He's looking out for him, trying to keep him safe. But there's just like that tiniest angle of gaslighting, that tiniest angle of control, where he like tells Shilian, he's like, be careful who you're friends with. Be careful who you talk to. Be careful what you do, because you might get hurt. And whereas San Long is just like, you do whatever you want. I don't care. It's fine. You'll make a good choice. So there's a difference there, right? It's hard to articulate into words, but the fact of him giving him the palace, him offering him the armory, him telling him who not to see and want to touch, him saying, do whatever you want to, here it is. There's so many differences between Hwa Chong and Junwoo, but they both seem like they are intricately tied to Shilian. And you have the king of the ghost realm, the heavenly emperor of the heavenly realm, these two leaders that both seem to have a vested interest in Shilian. I'm like, is this a damn love triangle? I don't know, but that's my theory. So for this week, I think that there's too many similarities, too many connections there. I have a feeling it's going to develop more as we go. But just the thing with the armory, the thing with the palaces, what's a residence, what's a home. But the thing of it is, Junwoo does not seem to want to be with Shilian like Hwa Chong wants to be with Shilian. So there is a difference there. So I don't know what to make of it, but my mind was like going a mile a minute in this last part of this chapter, being like, so I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Junwoo says that something horrible is going to happen to Shilian if he touches that scimitar, and Hua Chong's like, here you go. So what's going to happen? I don't know. But we shall see, right? So I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below, what you all thought of these chapters. I thought that these chapters went by way too quickly. There was way too much going on, but I'm now very curious, and it leaves on a damn cliffhanger. How dare it? So next week, we're going to be looking at chapters 42 and 43, which are part 10 of this series. So we're still like a third of the way through. So we're slowly chugging through volume 2. But I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. Please, no spoilers, hints, or clues. But I'm curious to know what you think of the Paradise Manor so far and about the armory. It's Beauty and the Beast, man. Beauty and the Beast is my favorite Disney film, so I'm here for it. So, in any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Heaven Officials Blessing. Bye.